Have you ever looked around and wondered why you are still here? You work harder than most people you know. You sacrifice more. You stay longer. You give more. And yet, the person beside you, who arrives later and leaves earlier, is somehow further ahead. It does not make sense, does it? You were told that hard work is the answer, that effort is the currency of success, that if you just keep grinding, the world will eventually reward you. But here is what they never told you. The world does not reward effort. It rewards outcomes. And outcomes are not the product of how hard you work. They are the product of where you position yourself before you work. Niccolò Machiavelli saw this 500 years ago. He watched men exhaust themselves in service of other men's strategies. He watched the hardest workers in the room build the richest empires for someone else. And he wrote one line that most historians gloss over: nous pelos puppets. Men are driven not by reason, but by fear and hope, forces that pull them like puppets. You have been pulling at strings someone else tied, and calling it ambition. This video will not teach you to work harder. It will teach you what the grinders never learned. Subscribe now and turn on notifications bell, because the next episode in this series takes this further than anything you have heard before. And if you leave before the end, you will miss the one thing that changes how every future hour of your effort actually lands. Stay. Most people confuse movement with progress. Think about your own day. You wake up already behind. Messages waiting, deadlines pressing, a list that grew overnight while you were sleeping. You move through it urgently, relentlessly, efficiently. By evening, you have done a great deal. And somehow, you are not further ahead. You are just tired. This is not a discipline problem. This is not a motivation problem. This is not a time management problem. This is a strategy problem. And until you name it correctly, every solution you try will fail, because you cannot fix the wrong problem, no matter how hard you work at it. Machiavelli called this the trap of the reactive man, the man who responds to everything the world sends, instead of designing what the world sends. He described entire armies that marched for years, winning battle after battle, while losing the war, because they never stopped marching long enough to ask why they were marching. Sound familiar? Think about the last promotion you did not get, the last project that did not move your position, the last year that produced an impressive amount of activity and left you exactly where you started. You did not lose because you were lazy. You lost because you were occupied. And occupied people are the easiest to manage. Julius Caesar understood this with the precision of a man who had studied every campaign before he commanded one. He did not fight every battle. He chose his battles specifically, patiently, surgically. When Rome descended into chaos, Hanj Ritters dit Munkonsea, he did not chase every provocation. He watched. He calculated. He waited until the moment when crossing the Rubicon was not a risk, but a certainty dressed as risk. He did not outwork his enemies. He outpositioned them. That is not a subtle difference. That is the entire difference. In the modern world, consider what Amazon did in its first 7 years of existence. It lost money intentionally. Every analyst, every investor, every commentator called it a disaster, a company that could not generate profit. What Bezos was actually doing was not failing. He was positioning. Every dollar Amazon bought a piece of infrastructure that would make the eventual profit structurally unreachable by competitors. He was not building a business. He was building a moat that would make his business permanently unapproachable. That is not hard work failing. That is hard work directed by a strategy. Most people were too reactive to recognize, until it was too late to replicate. He did not outwork them, he outpositioned them. Now bring it close. You are in a meeting. You spent the evening before preparing something excellent. You present it. Silence. Then 10 minutes later, someone else repeats your core idea with more confidence and less detail. The room responds. They get the credit. You get the frustration. You worked harder. You contributed the actual substance, and you lost. Not because the room is unfair. The room was perfectly fair to the dynamic that was operating. You positioned your contribution as a preparation. They positioned theirs as an authority. The room responded to the position, not the effort. That is not cynicism. That is the room working exactly as rooms work. So what is the alternative? This is where most people take the wrong lesson. They hear effort is not enough, and they think the answer is less effort. That is the misdirection. The answer is not less effort. The answer is effort with a different engine underneath it. Machiavelli wrote about two forces that govern what any person accomplishes. He called them virtù and fortuna. Not virtue in the moral sense. Virtù, the ancient Roman meaning, capability, decisiveness, the specific, cultivated readiness to recognize an opportunity and move on it without hesitation in the exact moment it presents itself. And fortunity, the circumstances you did not choose, the market you were born into, the family you inherited, the timing of the crisis that became either your destruction or your foundation. Most people spend their entire lives blaming fortunity, the bad timing, the wrong economy, the unfair advantage someone else had, and they are not wrong to notice it. Fortuna is real, but Machiavelli's warning is not that fortuna does not exist. His warning is this: the person who spends their energy complaining about fortuna has no energy left to develop virtue, and virtue is the only force that can meet fortuna and shape what it becomes. He wrote, "Fortune is a woman, and the one who wishes to hold her must be ready before she arrives. Circumstance does not yield to the passive, and they are not wrong to notice it." Fortuna is real, but Machiavelli's warning is not that fortuna does not exist. His warning is this: the person who spends their energy complaining about fortuna has no energy left to develop virtue, and virtue is the only force that can meet fortuna and shape what it becomes. He wrote, "Fortune is a woman, and the one who wishes to hold her must be ready before she arrives. Circumstance does not yield to the passive, and they are not wrong to notice it." Fortuna is real, but Machiavelli's warning is not that fortuna does not exist. His warning is this: the person who spends their energy complaining about fortuna has no energy left to develop virtue, and virtue is the only force that can meet fortuna and shape what it becomes. He wrote, "Fortune is a woman, and the one who wishes to hold her must be ready before she arrives. Circumstance does not yield to the passive, it yields to the prepared. The prepared person does not wait for the right moment. They build themselves into a state where they are ready when the moment arrives, because the moment does not announce itself. It appears, and it measures you against what you have been building. In the hours no one was watching, Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, a man who governed the most powerful empire in the ancient world, wrote these words privately, never intending them for publication. "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He was not writing a self-help book. He was writing a discipline manual for a man who had access to everything. The world considers success, and still understood that the interior work was the only work that actually transferred. The outer game is built on the inner one, always, without exception. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because what comes next in this series is the piece most people skip and then spend years wishing they had not. The principles you are learning here only compound if you have the next layer. There is a specific type of exhaustion that only the ambitious know, not the exhaustion of laziness, the exhaustion of misdirected effort, of having worked hard in the wrong direction for long enough that the wrongness has calcified into habit. You do not even question it anymore. This is what you do. This is how you work. This is your identity as a person who does not stop. But the person who does not stop never looks up long enough to see if they are still heading where they intended. Seneca wrote, with the precision of a man who had spent his life in the courts of emperors and understood what ambition costs. It is not that I am brave, it is that I know what is worth fearing. The thing worth fearing is not failure. Failure is recoverable. The thing worth fearing is arriving at the end of a decade of genuine effort and discovering that the direction was wrong from the beginning. That is not a setback, that is a life, and it happens more often than anyone in a room full of motivated people will ever say out loud. Think about Kodak, not as a corporate cautionary tale, as a human one. Kodak employed some of the most disciplined, most technically excellent people in the photography industry. They worked hard, they showed up, they believed in what they were building, and they were building the wrong thing. Not because they were lazy, because the people responsible for direction were too occupied with protecting what had already been built to see what was being built around them. They confused the defense of a position with the building of one. They confused familiarity with strategy, with the intelligence of evolving, and by the time the difference was visible, there was no time left. Contrast that with Steve Jobs returning to Apple in 1997. The company was 90 days from bankruptcy. The reactive response, the hard-working, exhausted, industrious response, was to say yes to everything. Jobs did the opposite. He eliminated 70% of everything Apple made. He chose 4 things and let everything else go. That is not less work. That is work with a different intelligence underneath it. He did not outwork the problem. He repositioned Apple inside a different version of the problem entirely. And from that repositioning, everything else became possible. He did not fight harder, he chose different ground. So where does the effort go, if not into grinding, into what? This is the question that Machiavelli spent 44 years answering. And his answer, stripped of every formality, is this: into positioning, into patience, into the quiet, invisible, unannounced construction of the conditions under which your effort produces a disproportionate result. Sun Tzu wrote, "The greatest general wins not by fighting, but by shaping the battlefield before the battle begins." He was not describing a military tactic. He was describing the only form of effort that actually builds something permanent. The effort of preparation, of positioning, of building the infrastructure of influence before the moment of influence arrives. In relationships, the reactive person invests everything in the visible interactions, the dates, the conversations, the gestures, and the relationship is always as strong or as fragile as the last interaction. No accumulated architecture. No foundation, just the performance of the present moment, rebuilt from scratch every time. The strategic person invests in the invisible things, the consistent reliability, the demonstrated standard, the pattern of behavior that communicates who they are, not through what they say, but through what the other person has observed across time. That person does not need to perform in every moment, because the accumulated pattern performs for them. In work, The reactive person takes every task that arrives. They are visibly busy, visibly dedicated, visibly exhausted, and they are rewarded for their availability, not their indispensability. The strategic person chooses the task, not every task, the specific task that places them at the intersection of what the room needs most and what only they can deliver. And from that intersection, the reward is not payment for availability, it is the recognition of irreplaceability. You cannot be replaced. If you have positioned yourself where no one else is positioned, that is not luck, that is architecture, built quietly, without announcement, over the time, when the reactive person was available to everyone, and the strategic person was building something no one was watching. There is a pattern in every person who appears to succeed effortlessly. Look closely enough, and you will find, beneath the apparent ease, a long period of invisible preparation, of building in the silence, of investing in the infrastructure that makes the visible moment appear effortless from the outside. The effortless success is not the absence of effort. It is effort so precisely directed that the result appears inevitable. To everyone who did not watch the preparation. Think about the master negotiator who enters a room and within 15 minutes has shifted the entire frame of the conversation without appearing to have done anything. The room responds to them differently. Doors open, concessions arrive, the outcome tilts in their direction, almost as if the room chose it freely. It did. That is the point. The negotiator did not force the outcome. They built the conditions in which the outcome they needed was the path of least resistance for everyone else. That is not manipulation. That is the highest level of strategic intelligence, to shape the terrain so that the outcome you require is the one that feels natural to everyone inside it. Machiavelli wrote it directly. It is not enough to defend yourself. You must place others where their only moves serve your plan, not by force, by the architecture of the situation you have already built before they arrived. Silence is a strategy, not the silence of having nothing to say. The silence of knowing that what you do not say creates a space that the other person fills with exactly the information you needed. The person who is always present, always available, always responding, trains every room they enter to treat their presence as ambient, like background noise, always there, never remarkable. The person who is selectively present, who chooses when to speak, and is visibly still when they do not, creates in every room a different relationship with their words, because something that is not always available is something worth paying attention to. When it arrives, in relationships, the person who always responds immediately trains the receiver to treat their attention as unlimited, and unlimited attention has no price. In work, the colleague who always has an opinion on every matter trains the room to treat their opinions as filler. The colleague who speaks rarely, but with precision, trains the room to wait for the speaking. Both are working. One is working on output. The other is working on position. And position, in any room, is always worth more than output alone. This is what Machiavelli spent his career trying to make the people around him understand. Not how to work, how to position the work. Not how to fight, how to choose the ground. Not how to speak, how to cultivate the silence that makes the speaking land. He watched men of enormous capability destroy themselves through misdirected effort. He watched men of moderate capability hold extraordinary position through the specific intelligence of where they placed themselves before the moment of decision arrived. And he concluded with the cold clarity of someone who has studied enough history to see through the mythology of effort. The man who shapes events, Machiavelli, and not always the most capable man. He is the man who positioned himself closest to the moment, before the moment required him. Think about your own position, not your output, not your effort, not your hours, your position. Where are you placed in relation to the outcomes you are trying to reach? Are you in the rooms where decisions are made, or are you in the rooms where you are told what was decided? Are you building the skills that will be needed when the next door opens? Or are you refining the skills that opened the last one? Are you investing in the relationships that will matter when your moment arrives? Or are you maintaining the ones that comfort you in the absence of progress? Position before effort. Always position before effort, because effort without position is the most expensive resource a person can waste. Here is where everything lands. Alexander crossed more ground than any general in the ancient world. He worked harder, in the specific sense of physical ambition, than perhaps any ruler before him. He left nothing that lasted. His empire fractured within a generation. His generals took what he built and spent 40 years destroying it against each other. Marcus Aurelius governed quietly, defended more than he conquered, wrote letters to himself that he never published. His words are still read 2,000 years later by people who will never know the borders of his empire. One man outworked history. The other wrote himself into it. Which kind of work are you doing? Not in the grand sense, in the daily one, today. The effort you give today, are you giving it toward something that builds, or something that sustains? Toward a position that compounds, or a task that resets? Because here is the final verdict. The one this entire video was always building toward. Hard work does not fail because effort is wrong. Hard work fails when the effort is real and the direction is borrowed. When you are working hard inside someone else's strategy, towards someone else's outcome, in service of someone else's position, you are not a failure. You are misdirected, and misdirected is fixable today, not with more work, with a different question before the work. Where am I placing this effort? What is it building? And is that thing worth the only currency that cannot be replenished? Your time, your specific, finite, irreplaceable time. That is what every strategy ultimately protects, because the person who spends it wisely will always look effortless to the person who is still spending it on the wrong things. That is not luck. That is the psychology of effortless success. And now you know what it actually is. If this changed how you see the work you are doing, the previous episode will take it further. Watch, Kindness is a Trap. Here's what Machiavelli knew. Episode 10. The same invisible dynamic that operates underneath your effort, operates underneath your generosity. Understanding both. Desolate is the beginning of seeing the full board.